Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. In this tutorial series, we are developing a notes-taking application using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Now in the previous video, we added the functionality of deleting a note from here. Now in this video, we will add the functionality of creating a new note. So let's get started. For saving the note, we will use this function called save note. So let's start adding the code. So the first thing we will do is we will get the title and the content. So let's type const title equals this dot title input dot value, and we'll also trim any extra spaces that we have. So this dot title input is basically this one right here, where we are accessing the title input, which is this title input right here. And then we need to get the content. So let's type const content equals this dot note content dot value dot trim. And the first thing we need to do is we need to check whether any of these is blank. So let's type if exclamation title or exclamation content. So if any of these is not available, then we'll just simply set an alert, and here we'll just type please enter both title and content. And let's just return from this function. And let's go to the save note event listener, and let's see whether we have the correct function set. So we have the correct event listeners set over here. So let's go back and let's click on this save button, and here we can see it says please enter both title and content. So let's continue with our code. Here, if the title and content are available, then we'll just create a const called note, and in this we will store all the content. So let's type id. Now if we already have this note and we are just clicking on the save button to update the current note, then we'll just get the id that we have in the current note. So let's type this dot current note question mark. So this will check whether we have the current note, and if you have the current note, then we'll just type this dot current note dot id, or else we'll just create a new id. So I'll just call the date.now function right here. This will give us a unique ID, and the next thing we need to store is the title. So we can just type title colon title. Now if both of these values are same, then we can just simply add it once, title. And let's also store the content. And then we need to store the last modified. So let's type last modified. We'll set it to new date dot to ISO string. Now the next thing we need to do is, if we already have the note, then we need to update that note. And if you don't have the note already, then we need to create a new note. So let's type if this dot current note. Here we are checking whether we already have a note. So here let's type const, and let's store the index over here. So let's type index equals. Index is basically the place where the note is stored. So here we can see this note is stored in index 0. This one is stored in 1. So we need to get the index. So let's type this dot notes dot find index, and I'll just call it n, and let's type n dot id equals this dot current note dot id. So what this will do is it will find the index of the current note. So once we have the index, we can just simply go ahead and type this dot notes, and just store the new note that we have over here inside the correct index that we get from here. So let's type index, and here we'll just store the note that we created right here. Alright, now let's add an else. So if you don't have a note already, then we'll just go ahead and type this dot notes dot push, and let's pass the note over here. So this will add a new element to the array, and after that we'll just type this dot current note, and we'll just set the current note to the note that we created. And let's also call the function called save to local storage. So let's type this dot save to local storage, which we have created in the previous video. So this function right here. And then let's call this dot display notes list. And now let's go back to our website and let's see whether it works. So here let's type testing, let's click on save, and we have this alert. Let's add content, testing content, and let's click on save. So here we can see that the note was saved. Let's update it. So let's type updated over here. Let's click on save, and it is not being updated. So let's go back to our code and let's see what's the problem. So here we have misspelled this, so we need to type this dot current note. Let's go back and let's update this. Let's type updated content. And let's click on save. And if I click on this note once again, we can see that it is saved. Let's update this. Let's click on save, and we can see that the title was also updated. Now let's click on new note and let's add a new note. Let's click on save, and we have the new note added over here, and we also have the preview. So everything is working all right. Now let's also add the functionality of highlighting the current note. So if I click on this note over here in the original application, we can see that this is highlighted. We have a different color over here. So let's go ahead and create that function right here. Let's see whether we already have it. So we don't have it. So let's create a new function, and let's call it highlight active note. And the first thing we need to do is we need to get all the note items. So let's type const note items equals document.querySelector all, and he will just select all the elements with the class of note item. Now first of all, let's remove the active class from all of them. So let's type note items dot for each, and I'll just call each of them item, and here let's type item dot class list dot remove active. And then let's add an if condition, and let's check whether we have the current note. Now here what we need to do is we need to get the current note which is active. So we can get it using the title as well, but the title can be the same. So let's get the active note using the ID. So if you go to our HTML structure, and if you take a look at the notes list HTML structure, we have the note item over here. In that we have the S3 and the paragraph. We'll also add a data attribute for the ID over here. So for that, let's go back to the function which we have over here called create note element, and here for the div we'll also add a data set. So let's type div dot dataset dot id equals note dot id. So now if we go ahead and if we go to our HTML structure, here we can see that we have the ID for each of these note items. Now we can just go ahead and check whether any of these is the active note. So let's go back, and let's go to the function called highlight active note, and here we'll just type const active note equals this dot notes dot find, and let's call it item, and here we'll just check whether item dot dataset dot id is equal to this dot current note dot id. And if we have the active note, so let's type if active note, then we'll just go ahead and set the active class to that. So let's type active note dot class list dot add active. Now let's see whether this works. Now for making this work, we need to call this function. So we have highlight active note function. So we'll just call it over here after creating a new note. So let's type this dot highlight active note, and we'll also call the function highlight active note inside the create new note function as well. So let's type this dot highlight active note, and let's do that for the load note method as well. So here also we'll just type this dot highlight active note. All right, now let's go back to our website, and let's click on this note, and the active class is not being added, so we have some problems. Let's go to the console, and we have some error over here. So undefined reading ID. Let's go back to our code, and the problem is that we are accessing the notes from this notes over here, but we need to access it from this note items. So we need to change that. Let's go ahead and change it over here. So let's type array dot from, and here let's add note items that we get over here. So now let's go back to our website, and let's click on this, and now we can see that it is working. We have the highlighted note displayed over here, so everything is working all right. Let's create one more note, testing 3, and let's add some text over here. And let's go ahead and click on save, and we can see that the note was saved. So everything is working all right. So with that, we have added the functionality of creating a new note. So that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button. and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.